Today we have our 1.0 2025 NFL mock drafts. Last year we did about 6 or 7, so be on the lookout for more of these. We usually do them during big moments of time during the football season, whether that's the college football playoffs, Super Bowl, Combine, free agency, and obviously my final one, but I'll do some during the regular season as well. Make sure to like and subscribe, go into the description, submit your video ideas, and let's get right into it with the Carolina Panthers at pick number 1. For me, currently, my number one overall prospect in this class is Will Johnson. I think the Panthers could look at corner, they could look at edge, but they could also potentially look at quarterback here. I say it every year. As long as there's teams at the top of the draft order that need quarterback, they will pick them. I don't think they're gonna pick him at 1 though. I think we're gonna go ahead and see Will Johnson with the first overall pick. He's 6'2" um with like a 6'4" wingspan, maybe even bigger than that. He's also 210 pounds, so he's your modern day cornerback. He's not the fastest. I think he runs about what a 4.5, but he's aggressive at the line. He has insanely great ball skills, and I think down the line in a year or two, we could look back at Will Johnson and confidently say he's one of, if not the best cornerback in the NFL. At pick 2, we're going to have the New England Patriots. I think they could also potentially look at cornerback. Would also not mind edge here potentially with losing Matthew Judon to begin the season. I've liked what I saw out of Abdul Carter so far this year. But there's this one guy that's still on the board that maybe they thought was going to go number 1. That's going to be Travis Hunter. The truth of the matter is that Travis Hunter is the best college football player right now. He plays both sides of the ball, and he's a top guy on both positions. Now, when it comes to the NFL, he will not be playing full time on both sides of the ball. It's hard enough to learn one full playbook on the offense or defensive side, but if this guy has to play both sides, he's going to have to learn 2 full playbooks, which is just going to be impossible for a guy like him. But what I do believe Travis Hunter will bring is some potential on both sides of the ball. Now, whether he gets drafted as a cornerback or receiver, I don't really know what it's going to be at this point. Receivers make more money, but I think overall he's probably the better cornerback, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. But if he's going to be playing, let's say he plays cornerback, he'll come in as receiver sometimes for sure for this Patriots team in some simple formations or limited formations, but he's not going to play full time at wide receiver. He'll come in on maybe 1 or 2 formations. And the same thing if he plays full time receiver, he'll play cornerback on a couple formations as well. But he will not be playing full time because that's just impossible to learn. At pick 3, we have the Cleveland Browns. With the injuries to Jack Conklin, he's always injury prone. Jedrick Wills, he's not been as good as recently, and he's injury prone, and he's up for a contract. I feel like we have to go tackle here. My number 1 tackle on the board is going to be Will Campbell. I think it's a great fit for the Browns. Could also maybe look at quarterback, but just really not feeling it for them at pick number 3. At pick 4, we have the Raiders, and this is a team that needs to take quarterback. Maybe they could look at running back. You do have Aston Gentry, of course. I don't know why he's ranked at 43. But we're going to go quarterback here. I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if he's my number 1 quarterback yet. I haven't really decided between him, Cam Ward, and Jalen Milrow as of yet. Maybe Quinn Ewers can go into that conversation as well if he comes back and plays pretty well. But for right now, for what the Raiders are looking to do, I think Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback for them. At 5, we're going to have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe a week ago, I would have said Benjamin Morrison, but as of recently, he's not been playing the best or really the whole season so far. So maybe I'll drop him down a little bit. So I think I'm just going to go tackle here. It's another one of their biggest needs. So I'm actually going to go ahead and select Kelvin Banks here out of Texas. I just think if they want to continue to progress this team's offense, you're going to need to take a tackle. And I think Kelvin Banks is in very big conversation to potentially be that first tackle off the board instead of Will Campbell. At 6, we have the Los Angeles Rams. Ever since Aaron Donald has left, there has been a hole on that defensive line. And I think they're going to fill that right now with Mason Graham here out of Michigan. Now, is he going to do what Aaron Donald did? No, Aaron Donald is one of the greatest defensive players of all time. So, no, Mason Graham will not do what Aaron Donald did. But I think he'll fill up the hole. He's going to be able to pick up or eat some blocks and get into that backfield. He's been playing amazing this year at Michigan. His teammate who plays right next to him, Kenneth Grant, has also been playing pretty well as of recently. I think both those guys have a great chance to be top 10 picks. At pick 9, we're going to have the Tennessee Titans. I'm actually going to go running back here. As crazy as it sounds, Aston Gentry, you're the 7th overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. Wow, Aston Gentry's absolutely insane. I mean, if he doesn't win Heisman this year, if this Boise State team makes the playoffs, I'd be absolutely dumbfounded. I think there's even a chance that he wins Heisman if they don't make the playoffs. But Boise State's a top 12 team. They get that 12 seed in the college football playoffs, and this guy does not win Heisman. Something's wrong. He's having he's probably going to end up having the greatest college football running back season of all time. He's breaking all sorts of records already, and he's been amazing so far at Boise State. Just 200 yards after 200 yards after 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's been insane for Ashton Jeanty. And I think at 7, he'd be a great replacement for what Derrick Henry brought, except he's a bit more elusive. He bounces off, I'm not going to say he bounces off tackles as well, but he's definitely faster than what Derrick Henry was. And then what he doesn't do amazingly is run over guys, head on, which is something you'd expect him to do because of how great of a runner he is. But maybe he'll get that later. But right now, he's going to bounce off of you. He's going to break it to the outside, and he's just going to outrun you. Ashton Jeanty is insane. At pick 8, we have the Giants. If Ashton Jeanty was available here, maybe I decide to go him. Maybe I could also look at interior defensive lineman and Kenneth Grant. I think he's a guy I might want to sneak into the top 10 in this one. But I actually think I'm going to go with quarterback to replace Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has not been terrible the last couple of weeks, but let's go ahead and take my potential quarterback one in Jalen Milroe. Brian Daboll, before he was the head coach of the New York Giants, he was the offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. Jalen Milroe has some of the same attributes that we saw out of Josh Allen with that big arm. He is also big built with also having the ability to run. So maybe Brian Daboll found his Josh Allen light, and if he did, I like this for the New York Giants. At 9, we have the Miami Dolphins. I think this is where I'm going to go Kenneth Grant. I don't think there's any interior offensive lineman that I'm too comfortable to go ahead and take right here. Tyler Booker just feels a little bit too early. Same thing with Donovan Jackson. Could also maybe look at Jonas Savanaia, but again, a little bit too early. He'll be playing guard or center in the NFL for sure. So I'm actually going to take interior defensive lineman here. Give me Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. He started off the year very slow, where it looked like he was going to drop out of the first and maybe even the second round. The last 3 weeks, last 2 weeks, he's been elite, just as good as Mason Graham. And for that reason, he's a top 10 guy for me right now. Pick 11, we're going to have the Denver Broncos. It looks like Bo Nix might be turning a page right now in his rookie season. He had a very good game last game against the Raiders, I believe. Yes, it was the Raiders. So I think it's time to go ahead and give him another weapon. Maybe we move on from Cortland Sutton. The timeline just doesn't really match with what Bo Nix gives us. So I'm going to go give them my personal wide receiver one right now, even though it feels like there's a 1A, 1B, and 1C with McMillan, Luther Burden, and Isaiah Bond right now. I don't know why it says he's from Alabama. He's Texas right now. But yeah, honestly I could see any of these guys end up go 10 to the Denver Broncos. But give me T Mac. He's been really good for Arizona this year. And I think he's the similar type of big body receiver we saw the Falcons take in Drake London just a couple of years ago. He doesn't separate the best, and I think that might be a problem at the NFL level, but he's got great hands, he's got great jump ball ability, and he'd be a nice wide receiver X for Bo Nix and this Broncos team. And I think Sean Payton would love having a guy like him. At 11, we're going to have the Indianapolis Colts. I think this should be DB, DB, DB. Now, whether that's going to end up being Benjamin Morrison or Malachi Starks, that's the question. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take Benjamin Morrison here at pick number 11. I think he's probably still a top 10 guy for me in this draft class, maybe even top 5. I liked him a lot to start the season. I thought him and Will Johnson were neck and neck for CB1, and I guess you could throw Travis Hunter in there as well because he does everything. But yeah, he's not played so well this season, really at all. And I think if he does bounce back, he'd get back into that top 5 conversation. Maybe 5 to the Jaguars, even 4 to the Raiders, maybe 6 to the Rams. But for right now, let's cool it just a bit and have him go 11 to this Indianapolis Colts. At 10, we're going to have the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is a great spot for potentially edge. In my edge number 1 right now in Abdul Carter. Maybe also interior defensive lineman. Tyreek Williams, maybe that's a bit too early. They'd love if Kenneth Grant was still on the board. I think there's no shot that Mason Graham would be, though. So we're going to go edge here. We're going to give them Abdul Carter. My personal edge one. To start the year, it was James Pierce. But for right now, it's definitely Abdul Carter. Or maybe Nick Scorin. He's been playing very well this season as well. At 12, we have the Chargers. I think they're going to continue to look to bolster up that front line, whether that's on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. Another team that would have loved if Kenneth Grant was still on the board, obviously that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh connection, but just not there. I think it's probably still a bit too early for Tyreek Williams. Could look at maybe cornerback here. I'm not going to include Siobhan Ravel or a matter of fact, Harold Perkins in this draft class, not because I don't think they'd be first rounders. I actually think they'd both be first rounders, but they had season ending injuries, and I kind of expect them both to stay at college for another season just to use this year as a redshirt. But I think for this Chargers team here at pick number 13, I don't think there's any cornerback that's good enough to go 13. Maybe Tacario Davis, maybe Denzel Burks, Burke. but I think I am going to go edge here. We're going to go ahead and give them my edge number two, Nick Scorton. He's also played very well for Texas A&M this year. They started off obviously Texas A&M with a loss, but since then they've been a very, very good college football team. And I think 13 to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. For the Bears here at 14, we can go a couple of different directions. I'd like to see them potentially add edge, maybe a Michael Williams, maybe a James Pierce, maybe Jalen Walker, or maybe Princely Manmayelen. I have to learn to say his name because he's going to be a first rounder this year, more likely than not. Also, Danny Dennis Sutton has also been very good as well. JD Tuimolau could maybe find his way as well. There's a lot of good edges, and LT Overton has also been pretty impressive this season as well. But they could also look at tackle here. You guys know who I'm going to go to. Cameron Williams out of Texas has been elite this year for them, and I think he has a great chance to potentially be tackle one, tackle two off the board. I think he is just as good as Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. Princely, Princely. He can end up being edge one as well. I think there's a lot of great options, but I'm gonna go Jalen Walker. I think he's been outstanding for Georgia so far this year. He's able to play off ball. He's able to play on the edge, and I'm very excited to see what he can do at the NFL level. 13 though, this is where I'm going to have Cameron Williams out of Texas go. Like I said, I think this guy has great chance to be the number one tackle off the board, and I just hope you guys know that in a video a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I preached that this guy was going to be a top draft pick in the class before he really came onto the scene because people are now figuring out who Cameron Williams was. But after those maybe first two games at Texas, I realized he should have been this high. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying I was the first one to call it out, but I was one of the first. I'm gonna have him go 15 to the Seahawks, even though he can end up being a top three guy on draft night. The Buccaneers at 16 is definitely a team I'd like to see address edge. I think with Michael Williams still being on the board right here, I'm gonna go ahead and go him. But yeah, this team definitely needs edge help. At 17 for the New Orleans Saints, my team, I could see edge possibly in maybe Princely, maybe James Peters, because Cam Jordan is getting very old. But maybe we can also address edge in the second round. I think that's very possible. What else we could look at is potentially tackle. Maybe Emory Jones, maybe a Arianta Ursery. Again, though, probably not looking for that. But the value with this guy still being on the board and Malachi Starks is just way too much for me. He's the best safety in college football right now. He's had his down games. He wasn't great against Alabama, but he was elite versus Clemson. That insane interception. And I think if he falls down to 17, the Saints are able to get him to be a replacement for Marcus, or not Marcus, excuse me, Tyrann Mathieu down the line. They'd be very happy. Malachi Stark 17 to the Saints. This could end up being a steal in a couple years. At 18, we're going to have the Commanders. Another team I could see potentially target cornerback and maybe a Denzel Burke to Carrier Davis, but I'm actually going to have them go wide receiver here. Go ahead and get Jaden Daniels another weapon. That's going to be Luther Burden out of Missouri. Burden, I don't know if he's been as good as what he was last year. He's definitely been a bit worse, but I expect him to pick it up. I think that he's still a first round receiver, and I think with Jaden Daniels getting more weapons, we can see his game continue to improve and him potentially be a top quarterback for years to come. Thanks to Luther Burden and Terry McLaurin. And I guess I should shout it out. Luke McCaffrey. At 19, we have the Steelers. I'm pretty tempted just to go wide receiver again in Isaiah Bonds, and I think that is what I'm going to end up doing. Isaiah Bond out of Texas for the Steelers at 19. They don't usually pick wide receiver, but if you're really going to make Justin Fields your franchise quarterback, it's time to invest in that position. Calvin Austin's been solid this season. George Pickens has been up and down, so getting a guy, a speed guy, nice route runner as well, and Isaiah Bond would help them a lot. The Bengals here at pick 20. But I could see them go in a lot of directions. I think one being cornerback could see potentially Denzel Burke to Karen Davis, or maybe even Jordan Hancock here, pick 20. Could also see Colston Loveland out of Texas. Could also maybe see interior defensive line as well. I really like Tyleik Williams, and I think he could definitely be a top 20 pick. So I'm actually talking myself into Tyleik Williams here at 20. He's also had a very good season at Ohio State, and I think he can definitely be a top 20 pick, especially for this Bengals defense who has looked terrible so far this year. 21, we're going to have the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to go Princely here out of Ole Miss. He's definitely worked his way into the first round for me. I think he can end up being a top 10 guy on draft night. He's been very good for Ole Miss so far this year. At 22, we're going to have the Dallas Cowboys. I think we're going to see two running backs go into the first round. Give me Quinshon Judkins here out of Ohio State. Ollie Gordon's been pretty disappointing so far this season. Travion Henderson and Mari Hampton, I just don't think are first round guys right now. But Quinshon Judkins, he's been very good. He has an NFL skill palette. And I think at 22 for the Cowboys, who are really just missing a running back for that offense, they were willing to take Quinshon Judkins here at Ohio State. At 23, we have the Jets. I think this is quarterback time. There's a very real scenario where this is Aaron Rodgers' last year in the NFL. So we're going to go ahead and take Cam Ward here out of Miami. Ward can end up being the Heisman right now. I still think there's a lot of flaws to his game. I think he's still a poor decision maker. He does a lot of stuff at the college level that are just not going to fly when he reaches the NFL. He throws a lot of risky passes. A lot of times they end up incomplete or they just end up being caught. But it's going to be a lot tougher, a lot more tough for him in the NFL if he doesn't try to tighten up his game just a little bit. Also, Miami's almost losing to some pretty average teams right now. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers. If a first round worthy linebacker was available, I'd take him. Harold Perkins, again, not using him in this mock draft because of his injury. So I'm going to go corner here. I'm going to go to Carol Davis, actually. Oh, maybe I'll go Jordan Hancock. Uh, Actually, no, I'm going to go to Carol Davis out of Arizona here at 24. I think he actually might be my favorite cornerback in this draft class. So it would definitely be Shavon Ravel if it wasn't to Carol Davis. But again, not using him in this mock draft because of his injury. He'll probably redshirt. But yeah, at 24 to the Packers, you could potentially be losing guys like Eric Stokes this offseason. So I think Takaro Davis would be a very good replacement. At 25, we're going to have the Buffalo Bills. I think this is a great opportunity to go ahead and get another wide receiver there. I've said it before. You have guys like Curtis Samuel and Matt Collins that are just not going to be a part of your long-term future. So let's go ahead and take Emeka Egbuka here out of Ohio State. Him and Keon Coleman could be your 1-2 for Josh Allen for the near future. At 26, we're going to have the Eagles. I think they should probably take tackle here. Maybe I would look at linebacker, but like I said again, Harold Perkins, not drafting him. Interior defensive lineman is also potentially an option. Can maybe go ahead and see maybe a Dayon Walker or a Dante Corleone here at pick 26, maybe even a Walter Nolan. But I'm actually going to go ahead and take offensive tackle here. We're going to go ahead and go Emory Jones out of LSU. I think he's also a guy that could end up being a top 10 pick, but I think he's had a slow start to the season and he's definitely falling down a lot of people's draft boards, but I can still trust him to be a top 10 guy. At 27, we're going to have the Texans. A guy that's kind of fallen down the board just a little bit is going to be Colston Loveland here out of Michigan. And I know they have Dalton Schultz. I know they have Reverend Jordan. First of all, Reverend Jordan, extremely injury prone, so I'm not even going to talk about him. But it'd be nice to get another tight end there in that system over there in Houston. I think just giving CJ Stroud more weapons can maybe see them improve on defense, like maybe corner could take a guy like Denzel Burke. Could also maybe look at interior defensive lineman in one of these top guys. But I really do like Colston Loveland at 27 to the Texans. At 28, we're going to have the Minnesota Vikings. I think this is a great opportunity to go ahead and pick corner. We looked at defensive tackle, just nothing we really want right now. So we're going to go ahead and take Burke out of Ohio State, just filling another need on that already stacked defense. At 29, we're going to have the Detroit Lions. This should probably be edge for me. Could also maybe see tackle as well. Looking at guys like Ariante Ursery, also Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, who's been very good this year. But we're going to end up going edge here. Um, James Pierce is still on the board. Actually, no, I'm not going to go James Pierce. We're going to go ahead and take tackle here. I'm going to go Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. He's been having a insanely great season so far. We'll see if he keeps it up because it's definitely not a guy we expected to end up being one of the top guys in this draft class. But the way he's been playing, it's very hard for me to keep him out of the first round. At 30, we have the Ravens. Then go another interior offensive lineman, Jonas Savanaia, out of Arizona. Listed at tackle, but he's going to play guard or center at the next level. At 31, we're going to have the San Francisco 49ers. Could take Ariante Ursery out of Minnesota here. Could also potentially take another cornerback, Jordan Hancock. Could also look at defensive tackle as well. I think I'm gonna end up going Ariante Ursery out of Minnesota right here. I think he's definitely worked himself into the first round as well. Trent Williams getting older, he's still a very good tackle. Not as good as he once was though. He's definitely declining just a little bit. So just getting more tackle depth, even if Trent Williams plays for the next 3 years, is insanely important for this 49ers team. At pick 32, the last pick of the mock draft, we're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs. We could look at a bunch of guys right here. Um, could maybe look at safety. Xavier Watts is a guy I still like a lot out of where's he at? Where is Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame? Is he not in this mock draft? That's pretty surprising. I would definitely consider him in the talks for that for being a first round pick. He's listed at 234 for some reason. I do not know what's up with that. Um, could also look at interior defensive linemen. Dayon Walker's still here. Dante Corleone, Walter Nolan, all guys I could see be first rounders. But I'm actually going to go cornerback here. We're going to go Jordan Hancock out of Ohio State. He's been having a very good year so far this year. And with that, Chiefs defensive backs potentially being up for contract, also dealing with some injury, he'd be a very good replacement. So that's going to be it for the mock draft. Hope you guys enjoyed. Here's the full mock draft results. Will Johnson, number one. I don't have to read all of them. The most maybe reached and the top 10, I'd say maybe Shedeur Sanders. Four is definitely a lot high for him, but the Raiders do very much need quarterback. Other than that, though, looks pretty fine to me. I think there's three edges in a row or four edges in five picks. It's definitely a bit surprising, but there's a lot of edge needy teams between 12 and 17. But yeah, other than that, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go into the description, submit your video ideas, and I'll see you guys next time. See you.